What should you do when you've done everything that you can do in a gacha game? Maybe just stop playing, right? No, what would this guy think about that? Imagine quitting a gacha game after you think you've done everything you can do. So if you're a real gacha player and you want something else to test your might, I have the solution for you. Once you've gotten perfect gear in 2 to 3 fully built teams, you can challenge endgame content. Lucky for you, Wuthering Waves has a lot of it, and they seem to be willing to add more at any time. But has the endgame become a little stale at times? Is there something that you would change about it? And don't worry, criticism like this is actually helpful. Kuro will listen. They might have an FBI agent listening to me record this video right now. Let's get something straight. Wuthering Waves does have endgame that can be engaging, but have you ever thought that TOA was outdated due to it being so similar to the Spiral Abyss? Speaking of this shithole, the problems with the Abyss are most of the reason Genshin Impact's endgame has become monotonous. Now don't get me wrong, building your characters is a lot of the reason why this mode could be a bore. Picking a ton of flowers, getting on at certain times of the week just to get talent books and boss materials, having to grind a specific set for ages just to get the right main stat, and then when you finally get that main stat, your rolls are pathetic. The one time you can customize an artifact is once in a blue moon, so that's not even worth mentioning. Wuthering Waves, while having some issues for the most part, is a direct upgrade over these systems. You have to get less materials overall in order to upgrade your characters, and the recently added modifiers make it so that you can choose your main stat for your echoes. While you don't get the same 2 substat modifiers that you get in Genshin, there is much more abundance when it comes to this resource in WoWa. So let's say it's easier to get a team going and conquer the tower in Wuthering Waves. The tower itself has very easy beginner floors. If we're being real, you can solo these first 3 floors on both sides with a singular character. The only time you could really struggle here is maybe when your characters aren't fully built, of course, but the real challenge is the last floor on each side and the middle tower. And if you're a casual, which is most of you, so don't act like you clear sitting upside down with your pants off, then you're not only going to need really good echoes, but you're also going to need certain characters and maybe even signature weapons to make up for your mistakes in rotations. But since TOA is so similar to Genshin's Abyss, what makes it better? Well, not much. Yeah, it is easier to build characters and get a team together, and if you are good enough at the game to master rotations, you don't have to invest much into your teams to clear. But TOA is something you're used to if you played Genshin Impact, especially since the beginning, and it lacks creativity regardless of whether or not you've played Genshin. Another feature that Kuro has unfortunately copied from Hoyoverse is the tower buffs. If you don't know, these buffs can actually make a pretty large difference in your character performance, and in some cases be the difference between a clear and no clear. Therefore, when a main DPS is released, it is very easy to manipulate these buffs in order to cater to their playstyle, to make them do significantly more damage than everybody else on the roster. For example, when Zani first released, the buff given to her being 100% Spectral Frazzle damage bonus was so potent that she was easily the best DPS in the game by a mile. Buffs like these make the endgame stale when you know what to expect every time a new unit gets released. Just pre-farm and pull the new character and the buff will actually carry you to the promised land. With the buff like this, for a second I got flashbacks to HSR, and I never want to see Wuthering Waves in that light. Huh? So don't let me down, Kuro. I get wanting to sell the new characters and maybe giving players a boost to their new character if they don't have them built, but there are other units on the roster, so an attack percentage buff in every tower from now on would be nice, since most characters would benefit from something like that, like the 2.2 TOA buff, which gave the beloved attack percent increase and a resonant skill damage bonus. If I never told you what character came out during this patch, then it would be harder for you to figure out who it was. Well, don't worry, because I don't know either. It was probably Brand or something if I had to guess, I don't know.
Where you going? You're lost. Dollar Tree headset, so free, freer than a pump.
We know that the tower isn't perfect, and if Kuro tries to implement predatory practices into the mode, then they'll stray away from what makes WoWa so special. So what endgame modes are better or have the potential to be better? Whimpering Wastes is a mode to me that isn't the most fun, but it is needed. Let me explain. A mode like this is what makes the most obscure units shine bright when they otherwise would be an afterthought in any other mode. Characters like Roshia, who on release was heavily criticized for being the worst 5-star in the game, limited 5-star, sorry.
Mamma mia! Avanti! Figurati! The world is our stage!
And not being a significant upgrade over a character like Sanwa, who is the Bennett of Lula. Roshia will most likely receive another massive buff when Furlova comes out, considering she also has a kind of echo buffing in her kit, and Furlova is the #1 echo manipulator. Another character who gets to shine in this game mode is our general Jian, whatever. He is the first limited 5-star to be released in Wuthering Waves and still holds a place in the endgame meta here. So you may be an enjoyer of these characters, but have a significantly harder time in the tower, but that's alright because you can make them feel like tier 0 units in this game mode because of their grouping capabilities. This mode had a multitude of issues on release, but Kuro, being the proactive developers that we know, have honed in the issues such as the buffs being irrelevant and enemies moving in weird patterns. Now yes, Whimpering Waste still has its downsides, but if you use the characters that thrive in this mode, then you have tons of fun. It's more fun than you think, and I suggest you try it if you haven't played it in a while. And if you still think it's that bad, then would you rather play this or Imaginarium Theater?
Is Moika dead? What the hell happened? What happened, man? I hate those little things so much.
If you somehow chose the theater, then you're probably a hologram enjoyer if I had to guess. These things are the hardest challenge that Wuthering Waves has to offer and can be the center of hours and hours of gameplay. If you do happen to be somebody that struggles with these things, then just slow down your gameplay and watch the holograms instead of watching your buttons or your character. This might sound like a no shit DG, but you would be surprised that most people are looking around all over the place when they're playing the game. Just like most challenges within this game, you can take on the holograms solo and you get some okay rewards. Definitely nothing crazy, but that isn't the beauty of them. The replayability of these fights due to the difficulty makes them a ton of fun. The skill expression, using your reaction time to make plays, is what can keep you coming back for more and more unless you have bad ping. In fact, the recent events like Banners Never Fall is something that I would love to see added to the endgame, and the best thing about it is that it has no timer. The timer forces a damage check, and removing it forces the developers to get creative. The bosses are bloodthirsty, and the debuff gimmicks can create a variety in gameplay that you could not have otherwise anywhere else. The rewards here are also decent, but they could be better. The only thing about giving more rewards for clearing endgame is the fact that most players aren't there yet, regardless of what you might be thinking, because most people watching this are probably in endgame. As long as they aren't giving away some game-changing resource, then giving away Astrite is fine. The main focus for Kuro should be forming this event into a proper endgame where the entire map is involved and not just Renesita, because it would be refreshing to have a variety and replayable bosses in every region in this style of game mode. At the end of the day, you could say that endgame doesn't really matter. And yet technically it doesn't, because you don't get that many pulls from it, and you could really just be having fun playing the story and doing side quests or exploring. But even if that is the case, you have to realize that the longer that people play and the older that Wuwa gets, then the more people make it to the final challenges. If you make it to the end of the line and the game becomes pull or lose, then people will quit. And we want this game to last. We don't have that funding that Hoyoverse can pull out of their ass from scamming, because Kuro doesn't have to make every aspect of the game predatory in order to sell a character. So for the longevity of gathering wives, the end game needs to be good at the very least, but ideally great. And not saying that there's anything necessarily wrong with what we have right now. What we have is a great foundation. Wuthering Waves offers a ton of endgame, especially for a title that is only a little over a year old, so I can guarantee that there will be more of this added to Wuwa. The TOA is fine, Wiwa is good, the holograms are great, and the events are potentially something that can be great endgame modes too. So does Wuthering Waves need better endgame? Yeah, because the fake collab and HSR made more money than Wuwa this month.
We do not care.
Okay, obviously I'm just kidding. I know there's going to be someone who actually thinks I'm being dead serious. The endgame is fine, but it can be improved. The good news is that they're constantly on the right track to innovate. The combat events are always providing great ideas to improve on the endgame. Thank you so much for watching this far. If you have, you look cute today. Peace.